The Shield is back, and war has been declared. Roman Reigns just issued a chilling warning to Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. Are we witnessing the start of WWE's most explosive conflict yet? In this jaw-dropping segment, Roman Reigns reunites with the Shield and sends an ominous message straight to Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman: a war is coming to you. What does this mean for the future of WWE? Is a full-scale showdown inevitable? Watch the full breakdown of this high-stakes moment that's shaking the WWE universe. Backstage after the match, the scene was unlike anything WWE had experienced in recent memory. Cameramen fumbled to focus, producers shouted into headsets, and officials scrambled to get clearance for what came next. But none of that mattered. Because in the center of the chaos, standing amid broken chairs, shattered barricades, and spilled blood, was Becky Lynch. Her body trembled, not from fear, but from exhaustion. The pain in her ribs was real. Her lip was split, her right shoulder swollen. But she had done the impossible. She had made Roman Reigns, the Roman Reigns, submit. It wasn't just a victory. It was a seismic shift. The most dominant force in WWE had been brought to his knees by the very woman he had ridiculed, doubted, and dismissed. And in that moment, Becky Lynch didn't just claim a title. She reclaimed a legacy. The arena was still echoing with disbelief when Seth Rollins appeared on the Titantron. Still in his hospital gown, propped up on pillows, his face lit by the soft blue glow of a monitor screen. His voice cracked as he spoke. She did what I couldn't. She did what no one thought was possible. And now the world knows, Becky Lynch isn't just the man. She's the savior of this company. The crowd erupted into cheers. Becky, watching the screen, closed her eyes. A tear escaped down her cheek. This wasn't the ending she envisioned when she entered the tournament. This wasn't just about proving Roman wrong. This was about showing the entire WWE universe, and herself, that greatness wasn't gendered. It wasn't about bloodlines or belts. It was about resilience. Roman Reigns, meanwhile, lay backstage on a trainer's table. Ice packs covered his back and ribs. EMTs worked silently, checking for fractures. He said nothing. Didn't protest. Didn't lash out. He just stared at the ceiling, jaw clenched, eyes unmoving. For the first time in years, he had been humbled. Defeated. And the man who once walked like a god among mortals now looked human. Vulnerable. Broken. But Roman's silence wasn't surrender. It was calculation. Later that night, he called for Jey Uso and Zilla Fatu. In a dimly lit room, the three of them sat in silence. Finally, Roman spoke. She was never the enemy. She was the warning. Jey looked down. Zilla's fists were balled. Roman leaned forward. We got comfortable. We thought this company couldn't live without us. But tonight, she reminded me, WWE moves on. With or without us. Zilla slammed his fist into the wall, frustration boiling over. We let her walk out with your title, yes. Roman nodded. Slowly. And then whispered, no. I let her walk out with mine. Jey finally raised his head. So what now? Roman didn't answer right away. But his eyes, dark, cold, filled with fire, spoke volumes. We take it back. The following week on Raw, WWE wasted no time capitalizing on the moment. The show opened with a video package replaying every beat of Payback, Becky's entrance. Roman's brutality. The moment he tapped. And the still shot that would become iconic, Becky, bloodied and defiant, holding the World Heavyweight Championship high above her head. Then came the new theme music. Not Seth's. Not Becky's Old the Man remix. But a slow, orchestral piece mixed with warrior drums and echoes of Seth's laugh. And out she walked. Black jacket. Gold-plated belt. No theatrics. No dancing. Just power. Michael Cole called it the rebirth of WWE. Corey Graves muttered, Roman may never recover from this. And then she spoke. You don't get to claim this place with threats and shadows anymore, Becky said. You don't get to dominate through fear. You want this title back, Roman? You want your bloodline to rise again? Then come and take it. But this time I don't stand alone. The lights cut. A spotlight hit the ramp. And out walked Seth Rollins. The arena exploded. In a custom brace, still limping, still healing, but very much alive, very much standing, and very much smiling. He joined Becky in the ring. The husband and wife, side by side. Champions of chaos. Defenders of the future. Roman, watching backstage, didn't blink. But Paul Heyman, now reappeared at his side, was visibly panicked. We need to respond, Heyman said quietly. This is not sustainable. We have no gold. No leverage. No fear. Roman stood up. We don't need fear. We need war. Later that night, Roman called out Becky and Seth. Not for a rematch. Not for the title. But for vengeance. A match? Roman scoffed. This ain't about matches anymore. This is about respect. This is about territory. This is about blood. He challenged them to WWE War Games. Bloodline versus Lynch Rollins and whoever they dared to bring. No titles. No rules. Just war. Triple H sanctioned the match immediately for Survivor Series. But the question now was, who would stand beside Becky and Seth? And who else would Roman recruit? The chessboard was reset. And behind the scenes, the pieces began to move. Becky and Seth held meetings with Cody Rhodes, Kevin Owens, and even Shinsuke Nakamura. Each man owed something to Roman. Each had been humiliated, betrayed, or overlooked by him. Seth's injury had united them. Becky's victory inspired them. But could they be trusted? Meanwhile, Roman sat down with Paul Heyman and uttered 3 words. Call Jacob Fatu. And just like that, the darkness crept in again. Because Roman's rebirth wasn't the end. It was only the beginning of a greater empire. The call to Jacob Fatu was more than a strategic move, it was a declaration that Roman Reigns intended to escalate this war beyond the confines of Raw or SmackDown. Beyond brand, beyond tradition, beyond control. Jacob, the unhinged enforcer of the Anoa'i legacy, was the storm that WWE had long feared introducing to the mainstream. And now, Roman wasn't just unleashing him, he was inviting him. Paul Heyman, ever the tactician, voiced hesitation. He's not like the others, Heyman whispered as Roman's message was sent to the streets of San Jose where Jacob was last seen training underground. He doesn't answer to orders. He answers to blood, and even then, only when it suits him. Roman didn't flinch. Then I'll give him a reason to suit him. Back on Raw, Becky and Seth stood in the middle of the ring again, addressing the crowd just days after the Survivor Series announcement. But this time, their message wasn't about retribution. It was about resolve. War Games isn't a match, Becky said, staring dead into the hard cam. It's our chance to end this madness. To bury the ghost of the old bloodline once and for all. Seth, still limping and braced but burning with the intensity of a man who had nothing left to lose, added quietly, Roman took everything from me. My health. My peace. But he forgot one thing, when you take everything from someone like me, I become free. That line hit the arena like a superkick to the chest. The crowd roared as Becky raised her title high, Seth nodding behind her, the wound still fresh, but the spirit unbroken. The announcement came just minutes later via social media. Becky Lynch, Seth Rollins, Cody Rhodes, and Kevin Owens would represent the newly dubbed faction, the Redemption, in War Games. Roman didn't respond on camera. He didn't need to. The camera cut to an abandoned warehouse, flames flickering in metal barrels, and Jacob Fatu emerging from the shadows. Drenched in sweat, his face contorted with rage, he looked into the lens and said just 4 words. The war starts now. And with that, WWE was plunged into uncharted waters. Over the next 2 weeks, chaos reigned across both Raw and SmackDown. The Bloodline, now reinforced by Jacob Fatu and Zilla Fatu, tore through tag teams like wolves on the hunt. The Street Profits? Laid out backstage, steel chairs wrapped around their ankles. Sami Zayn? Found bloodied in a hallway, murmuring Roman's name like a curse. Even Damian Priest, not even involved, was power-bombed through the announce table for daring to speak Rollins' name. But the redemption wasn't sitting back. In a moment that stunned even the production team, Cody Rhodes invaded SmackDown with Seth Rollins at his side. Despite his limited mobility, Seth delivered a flying knee off the top rope, knee brace and all, onto Zilla Fatu in the parking lot. It was reckless. It was painful. It was defiant. And it sent a message. We're not afraid of blood. But just as momentum seemed to swing toward Becky's team, the unexpected happened. Jimmy Uso returned. Not as part of Roman's camp. Not to stand with Jay. But to stand alone. Raw went off the air one night with Jimmy standing at the top of the ramp, arms folded, saying nothing, as the camera focused on his eyes. They weren't angry. They were sad. Heavy. Tired. In a digital exclusive posted an hour later, Jimmy gave one sentence. Y'all tore this family apart. And walked away. Fans began to wonder, would Jimmy be the wild card? Would he side with Roman? With Jay? Or was he biding his time to strike at both? Meanwhile, Becky Lynch was dealing with her own battlefield. Her body, still healing from payback, was starting to show signs of wear. Trainers warned her that back-to-back matches with men twice her size could leave permanent damage. But she didn't care. Roman took my husband out on a stretcher, she told medical staff. I'll crawl into that cage if I have to. And crawl she nearly did. In a brutal Raw tag match against the Usos, Becky took a super kick that sent her into the steel steps. Medical staff tried to pull her out of the match. She shoved them away. Blood streaming from her brow, she finished the match, pinning Jay with a roll-up while locking eyes with Roman Reigns on the stage. Roman didn't blink. Didn't clap. Didn't smirk. He just walked away. As War Games approached, WWE began promoting the match like a prize fight. Not with flashy promos, but with eerie, subdued teasers. Roman and Becky, shown in split screen, pacing their locker rooms in silence. Seth shadowboxing in the rain. Jacob Fatu smashing glass in slow motion. Cody Rhodes tying his father's polka dot bandana around his wrist. And then, the final vignette dropped. Becky Lynch, sitting alone in an empty arena. Her voice raw. Real. I didn't come to WWE to be the greatest woman. I came to be the greatest wrestler. And if I have to break that cage down with my own hands to prove it, then that's what I'll do. This isn't just about titles anymore. This is about power. About fear. About a man who thought he could burn the whole place down and walk away untouched. But Roman. The fire's coming for you this time. Cut to black. Survivor Series arrived. The War Games cage lowered. The audience was rabid. Becky Lynch. Seth Rollins. Cody Rhodes. Kevin Owens. Roman Reigns. Jey Uso. Zilla Fatu. Jacob Fatu. No escape. No tags. No rules. 2 teams. 1 cage. The match began with Jay and Cody, 2 generals, each with something to prove. They clashed with ferocity, throwing fists that carried years of resentment. Next came Zilla Fatu, like a missile, wrecking Cody and slamming Jay into the turnbuckle by mistake. Then Kevin Owens. Then Jacob. Then Rollins. And then, the final entrant. Becky Lynch. Her music hit. The crowd rose. And she sprinted to the ring, not walked. Sprinting, despite the injuries. Despite the odds, she climbed the cage wall instead of using the door. Because this wasn't a fight. This was a mission. Within minutes, bodies flew. Tables shattered. Blood poured. Roman and Becky squared off in the center of the cage, trading blows like gladiators. Roman slammed her with a Superman punch. She got up. He speared her. She kicked out. She hit him with the manhandle slam onto a pile of chairs. 2 count. Then the finish. Seth Rollins hit Roman with a steel chain-wrapped knee brace to the skull. Becky locked in a modified disarm her. And Roman Reigns, bleeding, dazed, passed out. The ref called for the bell. The redemption had won. The bloodline had fallen. And the war was over. Or so they thought. As the steel cage lifted above the battered warriors, the sound of victory echoed not through pyro or music, but in the roaring sea of human emotion. Fans in the front rows wept. Others pounded the barricades with joy. And at the center of the chaos, Becky Lynch stood over Roman Reigns' motionless body, her fists raised skyward, blood streaked down her temple, her chest heaving with every breath. This was not the image WWE ever thought they would see, the man standing tall over the tribal chief, not with a stolen win or cheap roll-up, but with complete domination. Seth Rollins crawled to her side. Despite the agony written across his face, the brace stained with blood and dented from the impact, he smiled. Their eyes met. They didn't need words. They had just done what no one else in WWE history had ever done. They'd broken the bloodline, together. Jey Uso lay in the corner, confused, clutching his ribs and looking at Roman like a stranger. Zilla Fatu was unconscious after being slammed through a glass table. Jacob Fatu? Gone. No one saw when he disappeared. One moment he was there, smashing Cody Rhodes' face into the steel mesh. The next, he was gone. Some said he climbed out of the cage mid-match. Others claimed he was pulled under the ring. But one thing was clear, even chaos has a threshold, and Jacob had crossed it. Backstage, officials and agents lined the halls with awe. Triple H stood in gorilla position, watching the monitor, eyes wet. This, he muttered, this is why we do this. The next night on Raw, WWE opened the show with silence. No opening theme. No explosions. Just a slow fade in of Becky and Seth arriving together, Seth walking with a cane now, Becky carrying both the Women's World Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship over each shoulder. The crowd stood for 6 uninterrupted minutes, chanting, "Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Seth." And then the lights dimmed. Roman Reigns appeared on screen. But not in the usual setting. He was not backstage. He was not in his locker room. He was in a graveyard. The camera slowly zoomed in on Roman standing over a headstone. No words. Just the carving, the bloodline. 2020 to 2025. He looked directly into the camera and said, "Every empire falls. Even mine." And with that, the screen went black. No music. No message. No explanation. Fans were stunned. Had Roman just retired? Was this the end of the bloodline? Had he finally surrendered? The days that followed were unlike any in WWE's modern era. No sign of Roman Reigns. No social media posts. No appearances. No news. Not even Paul Heyman was taking calls. For the first time in 5 years, the WWE landscape was Roman-free. And yet, it didn't feel peaceful. Because everyone was waiting for the aftershock. Becky and Seth used the momentum to usher in what fans began calling the Redemption Era. Their mission was clear: rebuild what Roman's reign had corrupted. That meant reinstating titles Roman held hostage, restoring rivalries he buried, and bringing up new talent from NXT that Roman had blocked from rising. They started by vacating both championships. Yes, you read that right. Becky Lynch held up both belts in the center of the ring just a week after Survivor Series and said, "This isn't about me. This isn't about being the face. This is about making space. She laid both titles down on the mat and left. It was a moment of humility that rocked the company. A champion choosing legacy over limelight. Social media exploded. Female superstars lined up backstage to hug Becky. Rhea Ripley tweeted, "That's a real champion." Cody Rhodes called her the soul of the locker room. But in the shadows, the cracks began to show. Zilla Fatu returned first. Not on Raw. Not on SmackDown. But on NXT. In a taped promo, he stood in a dim-lit gym with scars still healing, eyes hollow. "Roman taught me war," he said. "But he didn't teach me peace. And now that he's gone, I have to find out who I really am." It was the most human version of Zilla fans had ever seen. No chains. No screaming. Just a broken man picking up the pieces. Jey Uso followed with a promo the next night on SmackDown. No theatrics. No music. Just a chair and a mic. "You ever realize too late you were in a cult?" he said softly. "That's what the bloodline was. We weren't a family. We were a system. And that system broke all of us." He paused, his voice cracking. "And I don't know how to fix what I helped destroy, but I'm gonna try." Fans gave him a standing ovation. It wasn't about forgiveness. It was about recognition. About redemption. About starting over. But one man wasn't interested in redemption. Jacob Fatu. Weeks passed. No updates. No promos. And then, one night during a Raw main event between Cody Rhodes and Finn Balor, the lights went out. A heartbeat sound pulsed through the arena. And when the lights came back up, Cody was unconscious. A steel chair in the ring. Blood dripping from the turnbuckle. And on the Titantron? A single word, reckoning. The camera never showed Jacob. But everyone knew. He hadn't disappeared. He had evolved. The next week, a cryptic video aired online. Surveillance footage. Low quality. A figure in a hoodie walking through a hotel corridor. Superstars in the background, oblivious. The caption simply read, "He's watching again." WWE denied responsibility. Fans speculated it was viral marketing. But backstage, whispers of Jacob organizing something darker, something beyond the bloodline, began to spread. And then, in a moment that shifted everything again, Roman Reigns returned. Not in the ring. Not backstage. But in an empty arena, seated in the front row, under a single spotlight. "I never said I was done," he said. "But the man you knew, the chief you feared, he's gone. You broke him, Becky. You broke me, Seth." He stood. "And now, I get to rebuild without the burden of blood." He turned toward the ring, empty under the lights. No crown. No title. Just purpose. And then he walked away. Some said it was a goodbye. Others said it was a beginning. Because in WWE, no victory is ever permanent. No era lasts forever. And every time peace settles in, there's always a reckoning waiting in the shadows. Weeks passed. And in the rare calm that followed Survivor Series, WWE found itself in unfamiliar territory, without Roman Reigns at the top of the food chain. Without a bloodline faction controlling the narrative. Without Seth Rollins in the title picture. It was as if the last 5 years had been wiped away in a single stretch of weeks. And yet, the fans didn't forget. Neither did the locker room. The scars were still there, even if the faces had changed. Becky Lynch, for her part, remained the heartbeat of the company. She had returned to competing full-time, but this time, she did it without any titles. Without any spotlight. In a backstage interview, she said, "I'm done chasing gold. I'm chasing legacy." And that legacy meant mentor.